Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kidblog webinar. My name is Sharon Davison, and I am a kindergarten teacher in Vermont. I'm in my 4th year of using Kidblog as a platform that I use with my students to connect and engage and enhance their learning. I'm also a facilitator for the NEA GPS network. GPS stands for Great Public Schools. It is a wonderful idea that the NEA came up with. It is free to everyone. You do not need to be a member of the NEA to join. If you are interested in joining any of the online groups, there are about 150 to choose from. You can go to gpsnetwork.com and join and choose a group that works for you. So I hope you'll think about it. So this afternoon, we're going to be talking about Kidblog. I'm really fortunate today. I have a couple of other colleagues that I'm going to let introduce themselves in a minute with me. We wanted to share and talk a little bit about how we found Kidblog to be a very safe, asynchronous tool, a digital platform that the 3 of us have used with our students to enhance and engage their learning. And it's a great way to model how to be a safe, kind, and responsible digital citizen along with our students and the families of our students as well. So, who would like to go next and introduce themselves?
I'll start. My name is Patty Nault, and I'm a kindergarten teacher in Wisconsin. And yes, I'm a Packer fan. I met Sharon through Twitter last year and discovered that we were both from Neenah and met up and have been collaborating ever since. Got another chance to meet up this summer, which was exciting. I will be using Kidblog in my classroom for the 2nd year, and I'm really excited to make some changes. I took it slow and did a lot of discovering last year, and it exceeded every hope that I could have imagined, plus more as far as communication and parent contact and kids writing, and it's been wonderful, so I'm excited to talk about it.
My name's Brianna Lau, and I taught 1st grade last year at the St. Johnsbury School in Vermont, and I'm moving to 6th grade next year, so I will be continuing my work with Kidblog with my 6th graders. And I met Sharon at the Vermont Fest last November and ended up emailing her afterwards and talking about how excited I was about using Kidblog, and she was really kind and really walked me through the whole process of getting started with Kidblog. And then we met face to face when she actually knew who I was at the Vermont, or it was a Vital Learn conference in May or March. Yep. So, and I found that Kidblog, my kids really like Kidblog. It really helped engage them as an authentic writing tool for them, and we were able to tie in multiple subjects: our reading, our writing, our math, just them sharing their learning and having discussions and things like that. I found it a very important tool in my classroom.
That's awesome. Thanks, Brianna. That would be a great place, I think, to start. Our viewers today might be really interested in why we blog with primary students.
So one of the things that I really wanted to do was to find another avenue for my kids to write, where they're still practicing the same, capital letters, the spacing, and sounding out the words. And we found that using Kidblog, they were able to, if we were practicing our opinion writing, we were in the classroom, and something as simple as, which is your favorite and why? And it was just another authentic tool for them to go to. They wrote out their sentences. I kept the same standards. You have to have a capital letter, you have to have a finger space, sounding out your words. And the kids, the thing that they liked the most about it was they were able to go on and comment on other students' work. And it really helped build some of my students' self-esteem, the ones that were a little bit more quiet in the classroom, because they could go back in and see someone gave them a compliment or ask them a question about their thinking. and it really opened up a dialogue through Kidblog with first graders, which is amazing.
Oh, I think that's awesome. And I can really connect with what you're saying also in terms of the commenting. In kindergarten, when I first start off introducing Kidblog, I use a book with me because most of the children are familiar with a book, and a book has a title, it has text, it also has photographs. And I let them know that this is one way you can read a book, a text, look at it face to face, share it with a friend, and have conversations about it. And I said, so when we're blogging, we're doing something very similar. We're going to blog about something. We start off something that's important to us. So last year, I had my students take photographs of things in the classroom that they were important to them or that they were interested in. And in the beginning, I just had them create a title and showed them how to upload their picture. And after that, then every time they would post something, after they did not need so much support from me as they did in the beginning of the year, I would simply send out an email to parents and say, hey, the students blog today. It would be really great if you could go to your child's Kidblog and also 2 or 3 other students in the classroom, their Kidblogs as well, and leave a comment, a positive compliment. And that worked really, really well because, again, what I was trying to do was also help develop a sense of perspective and also audience for the students. So whenever they are saying something face-to-face, they're always being kind. And I said the same thing applies when you're commenting online. It needs to be kind as well. Your words need to be very kind. So people, are appreciative of what you're doing. And I think parents, this was a nice thing I did last year with parents, taking a risk and having them comment on other students' blogs in my classroom. They were really great. I had a lot of really wonderful parents last year, and they were super models. And I think whenever possible, it's really important to include parents in that way when you are working with your kids on commenting, because then they have an opportunity to experience that alongside you and their child. And then I think they kind of begin to develop that sense of, oh, this is also, beginning of online etiquette as well. So that was really awesome. Patty, what about you? You want to
I,
share some ideas about
I,
why you blog?
well, I got started mostly as a way of replacing a tool of communicating with parents, and like Brianna said, it really did turn into student writing after about December, and the kids could take on more and more of the responsibility for it. But it was a great platform to showcase what we did on a daily basis or with a weekly update, and I found the parents absolutely loved the photos, and the kids could handle, taking photos throughout the day and the week. And we would send an email or tweet out that there are new posts. And like you, Sharon, I had some really wonderful parents who were diligent about checking regularly, and kids would come in, Mrs. Knoll, come and read. My mom left us a comment. Or they would arrive at school and say, check your blog, I left you a comment. And it gave them such a sense of excitement to be writers and to be kind and read others' work. And what I found with the student writing piece was, as we went from just doing a picture and a title and a word or a letter to represent a word, and then by May they were able to type sentences with spaces and use capital letters, and it almost ends up to be a wonderful digital portfolio of their progress throughout the year. And it's wonderful because parents have access to your day.
Yeah, I think that's great. And when I was at ISTE in June, there was a lot of conversation from a lot of different teachers who I met about whose administrators were really asking them to really investigate and think about some kind of a digital platform to use with their students so that they do have some kind of a record of, not so much, their performance, but what they're doing and their growth. And I think one of the things that I really like about Kidblog is that our posts that we do early on in the year look very different than what the students are able to do like in May, where they're very independent, by themselves, or able to get on their blog. They understand all the parts about what makes a good post. You have a title, you have text, you have photo, that kind of thing. The other thing I heard Brianna say, I just wanted to echo on this too, is it's really nice as a teacher when you can use the blog post, blogging, as a way to say, oh yeah, so what are these writing and reading components that we're working on during our Readers and Writers Workshop time? Do you notice any sight words? Are you leaving spaces in between your words? If you're working on punctuation. And I think what the blogging does is it just gives me as a teacher another way to kind of look and see what my students are absorbing, where they are with their reading and their writing. So I think that is really powerful too. Would Brianna or Patty, would either one of you like to share how you got started, or how in the very beginning of the year? I'm thinking people might be interested in how we kind of lay the foundation for Kidblog or blogging in your classrooms.
Sure, I'll go ahead and start. I was really nervous about starting Kidblog at the beginning because I had never done anything. We had just received these 3 iPads in our classroom, and I really wanted to use them for more than just the apps that were on that we could download. I wanted to be I wanted to teach the kids that this is a tool. It's that we can have a voice to enhance our learning, and Kidblog really allowed us to do that. And when I first started Kidblog, I don't think that I even had in my mind an idea of what I really wanted the kids to do with it. But I did start it off with, we learned how to take pictures on our iPads and take screenshots so that we were able to upload those photographs into our blogs to accompany our writing. We also started by kind of talking about what the difference between a compliment and a comment is, and to make sure we reiterated what it means to be safe, kind, and responsible, and how we have the sense of community in our classroom and how that translates to our kind of our digital community through our blogs. And that was one way that we started. And then I kind of, it almost started to take over my writing center that I had in my class. It was another choice that the kids could do during our reading time, or if we were learning something new about math. It was also another center that the kids had a choice to do, where they were sharing their learning through a picture, taking a picture, and then writing a sentence and sharing their learning about like a new idea or a new thing that they were taking away from that lesson. So that was kind of how that started off. And then the kids kind of went through and commented and gave a comment or asked a question or a compliment on their peers. And then it really allowed, the one thing that I really liked the most about Kidblog is I had a couple of parents who had or a couple of kids whose their dads were stationed elsewhere, Guam or overseas, and it really allowed the parents to get on and see what their children were learning about, what their day looked like, and it helped them when they got on the phone at night. Oh, what did you learn in school today? And the kids were, I didn't do anything. And but you're saying, oh, I saw on Kidblog you did this, and it really opened up those lines of communication. And that's one huge feedback that I got from the parents that they enjoyed the most, was it made them feel like they were connected with our classroom from thousands of miles away.
I think that's a really important point. I know this last year we had a family who was in Paris, France. We used Skype to say hello with them, but then also being able to look at our blog and their child's Kidblog. Another was a grandparent who was traveling through Spain. Again, it was really nice for her to be able to keep in touch with her grandsons that way as well. And I think that is really, really important. And so, I know I've had some people who get a little concerned with, well, how would I use this? How is that helpful? And I think in terms of having conversations, this Kidblog is a really nice way to help kind of begin to model how we can have online conversations in regards to things that we're learning about, while at the same time also enriching and enhancing relationships. And I think what you just stated, Brianna, is like really important. That's really key. Patty, what about you?
Well, I started because of you, and last summer I ended up starting my own blogging as a professional, and then to get myself comfortable with Kidblog, we used it most often the first semester with lots of modeling, lots of practice, and lots of decision making together so that the kids would have a good foundation before they were going on their own. And we would just pick small projects like the weather, and we would blog about the weather, and then we would blog about another science topic. Or my favorite way of getting familiar with using Kidblog as the teacher was to do the weekly updates to our activities and photos. Um, Again, the communication was enhanced just enormously with parents and relatives being able to get on and see what was going on. We had a parent go on a mission to Africa, and we were able to connect and share. And another little one went on a vacation, and we were blogging math problems about the beach back and forth. And they're just
Great.
incidental teachable moments all throughout the day when the kids get used to this being a natural tool that's available, just like the play center or the writing center or the class library. It just became part of us. And Brianna, I also had a core group of parents that were really fundamental in building my confidence and leap of faith and being brave to really experience this whole project, because they would come in regularly, and kids knew before they could be totally independent on it, kids knew that so-and-so was coming on Wednesday, and they would have a chance to help blogging. And it almost felt often that the technology component of what I had available to me in the classroom with one iPad or computer lab every 6th day really limited what I was able to do in the classroom. But there will be some changes this year that I'm really, really excited about. Having a mini lab in my room, so I hope the independent aspect of kindergartners blogging will be sped up with having access right in my room this year. I just think modeling and taking it slow as a newbie to Kidblog myself really helped build my confidence. And the kids will remember more than you know when you make mistakes. They're just opportunities for learning. So I would tell people jump in and give it a try and find someone like Sharon or Brianna that's willing to, give you their 2 cents when they can, or help you figure it out along the way. It's fun.
The great thing too that I like about Kidblog, I did the same thing. I started off really slow. I had no idea really what I was doing or how I was going to integrate it in the class. But I had Sharon, who we could share each other's Kidblog logins, and our kids could get on and comment and see what another class in Vermont or another class, all over the world who was using this Kidblog, and see what they were learning, and we could comment on their learning and have these discussions. And they saw that they made these connections, that they were like, oh, there's first graders in Nebraska that are learning about shapes too, and it opens their world a little bit. So,
The day we tweeted out that we had all just posted a new piece of writing on our individual blogs, and
I'm going to interrupt for just a minute. Sorry, Patty. So, Brianna, some people are really thoughtful, are typing in and wondering if you can mute your mic just a bit.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Patty, sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
I know, we're all learning. I love this. It's all good.
All right. Are people chatting on the side? I don't see anything.
Well, I have to tell you, and for our live viewers as well, I did not share this, but this is my first Google on-air hangout that I am doing solo. And I know there are many things that I am not doing correctly, but we're here, and hopefully if you are out there watching, you're finding what it is that we're sharing today helpful. So anyway, yeah, just kind of jump right in and do it. All right, so Patty, do you want to finish up?
Yeah, if I can think what I was
Oh, okay. Well, one of the things that I was thinking about is maybe sharing some ideas, Brianna and Patty, about what are some things that your students blog about? Like, what are some topics that you might start with?
You want to go, Brianna?
Sure.
I'll start. Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Patty. No, all you.
We did, like I mentioned earlier, we did science findings, and the kids were able to take pictures. We did a lot of whole group things like school-wide events as field day and special events that the physical education teachers would put on at the holidays. But what happened is through the modeling and the practicing together in our large group, the kids were coming up to me all the time with, Mrs. Nolt, can I take a picture of my Lego creation? And we would talk about, well, it's a little bit more than just taking pictures and posting those. What do you want to say about it? And it could have been starting out as simple as I worked together with another student um, on this project, and they were just proud that their friend could help them, and they would they would take stories from their writing journals and say, I really want my mom and dad to see this one, or my aunt is coming and I want her to see I wrote about the red shoes she gave me, and then an aunt would be able to comment back. And we just tried a little bit of everything, just to get accustomed to how this all works. And I have some work to do on understanding how categories work so that I could maybe do, science category and a free choice category so that there's a little more organization to it. Still learning in that regard as far as it goes.
Well, I think what's really important, what you touched upon, Patty, is the importance of students having choice and also being able to blog or blog and share about things that they have a personal connection with or personal experience with. I mean, that's the thing for me as a teacher, those kinds of authentic learning opportunities and connections that we make inside our classroom, we make all day long. And I think what blogging does is it just gives the students an opportunity to kind of go a little bit deeper with that idea or whatever it is that they want to share, and then they can go ahead and get comments or compliments about that as well. I think one of the things when I first started using Kidblog is I really focused on science and science inquiry, because as in kindergarten, it's very, we're very busy. Our days are very busy. They're going to be starting soon again, and there's a lot of hands-on opportunities, a lot of multisensory learning, as there are with a lot of, kindergarten and first grade students as well. So I think it really helped, that was really an added bonus starting with that, with inquiry, because the children were already so actively engaged and involved in what they were exploring and asking questions that they were really motivated to see, oh my gosh, I can put my work on a blog and up there on the smartboard and people will look at what I've done. And they love to share their work. I mean, they really do. So there's a lot of power in that as well. One question that we have from Christine is, how do you search for other classrooms that might be learning about a similar subject? That's a really good question. Patty or Brianna, would either of you like to try to answer that, or not? I can.
As far as I know, I don't think that you can search for specific classes or topics. What we did is we connected with other classes through Twitter or through my school, who also was using Kidblog, and I could share them my URL to my Kidblog. And then I created kind of almost like a fake login, just guest and password guest. And so that way I could have people from all over who I gave my URL to. That's a big thing with the Kidblog that I love the best, is that privacy feature. And so they had to have my specific login, my URL, and then the specific login and password that I provided. And then they were able to log in and see what we were learning about and then comment or compliment through that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, We did the same thing. Blogging and being on Twitter go hand in hand.
Mhm.
I think one really enhanced the other for me. Um, I did something different the first year. I kept everything private, and I just felt like I wasn't confident and strong enough using it, and I wanted to make sure I was playing by the rules and being safe. But due to an earlier webinar that I participated in this summer, it was just pointed out so simply to me that as the moderator of that blog site, I am going to see everything that is being presented or submitted for approval anyway. So it's ultimately all in my hands. And this year I'm going to go for it and do public and have a guest sign in and password and just I need to try something different to compare and see where my comfort level is and what the results are. It is a lot of learning by trial and error, and there's always ways to fix it because the control ultimately is in the teacher's hands as the moderator.
Right.
One question that came up from some of my colleagues was, when do I find time to do this? And to me, moderating comments and um, going over posts before they're actually approved, it really isn't any different than sitting down with a stack of journals to look through or papers to go over. So you're just kind of trading one type of task for another. So it didn't seem like a whole lot of extra work to be able to implement this, and then it took the place of some projects, and it all worked out wonderfully. It was well worth the try.
And I think the other thing that I have done that really helps is being able to, when I do connect with other kindergarten classrooms that are using Kidblog, is we make, once we have a connection, and then we agree to share. So Patty and I did that. I also did this last year with Brianna, and I think it's really nice. So if you have a focus, whether it be science or if you're doing an author study, and you just agree with that other classroom that you would like to, leave compliments and comments on each other's drawings or whatever it is that you have that you want to share, that works really well also. There's another question here from Janelle, who's curious about if you have students write in journals to practice handwriting skills. She's sharing when she uses Kidblog with her kinders, they write in their journal and draw a picture, and then she takes a picture of their journal and she uploads it to her blog, and then she types what they say.
I also used that method as well before they were very independent, and I found that sometimes if I had them pre-write, it was just like double the work. So we would just take pictures of what they had and then use the teachable moments when we're typing it out, much like you would do during a writing conference, side by side with them with pencil and paper.
I think it's a really great idea, Janelle, also in the very beginning of kindergarten, because again, you want to model how this asynchronous tool is going to help promote and share things that they're exploring and things that they're interested in. And as Patty said, you don't want to make it double work for them to have them write it out and then do it. That doesn't make any sense. Brianna, did you have something you wanted to add?
I taught first grade, so the kids were a little bit more independent and was starting with the Kidblog and writing sentences and things like that. When they got to me, one thing to remember is Kidblog. Another great thing about Kidblog is that it's free, but it does limit your amount that you can post. And so the more pictures that you use, not that you would run out, but if you post a lot of pictures, or if you're using Kidblog only for the pictures, you may run into the problem of running out of free space. Just keep that in mind.
Okay.
Well, that actually did happen to me by the end of September. And I went into my principal, and she was so excited that someone in her building was giving this a go, and could probably lead by example, as I hope I have been and will continue to do. she had no problem getting the subscription uploaded or upgraded, and um, I would have done it myself. It was a fun year, and pictures are so important to obviously any parent, but when you have kindergartners that are off on their own and entrusted to some new person, um, just seeing what their children are doing during the day really helps build that level of trust. And the big key for me was, like you had mentioned earlier, Brianna, was that now parents could have these great conversations that they weren't able to have because they didn't see that Lego creation on the blog post, or they didn't get to hear about it firsthand. And I had one father who said he couldn't believe how much more he could converse at the dinner table with his child about her day, because he already knew before she got home what kind of where he would lead the conversation, and then the trickle effect down onto the younger brother who would want to try something that we had, you know, written about, or it just really increased the amount of conversation happening, and that is so, so valuable because it all starts with talking.
It does, and I think, it's such a great point, Patty, that you just mentioned, this whole idea about having those face-to-face conversations. I think sometimes I've run into in the past where some people may think, oh, if you're blogging, then what are you not doing? Like, is my child not having conversations in school? Are they not turning and talking? And it's just the opposite. It really enriches it. Because before we begin any kind of blogging or creating any kind of blog posts, the children always have an opportunity to have a face-to-face conversation with a partner, with each other in a group, and then we talk about what it is that they're exploring, what are they discovering, and what is it that's exciting about it that you think other people might be interested in knowing about what you're doing. So I think that's a really important point. I think what Kidblog does, or blogging, I think does also, is just a really nice platform to highlight, enhance, and engage what it is that we're doing inside of our classrooms. And the children get really excited about that when they see that there's this big global world out there. And someone over in South Korea last year, I did a Padlet, we did some sharing with another class in South Korea, are doing something in math that we're doing in math. And I found my students so much more interested then in the content that we were exploring and the math habits of mind, and asking questions like, oh, this is a mathematical connection because Mrs. D, and oh, I wonder if we should blog about that and share with our friends, and so in South Korea, if they're doing that too. So I think there's just a lot of really genuine, authentic learning that just happens, and it happens through a child's eyes, through their own passion and their own exploration with the learning that's happening in our rooms. So I'm a big fan of Kidblog. I don't know if people in the audience can see, but Patty and I are wearing our Kidblog shirts. Just to help, yeah. Yay! Anyway, so the other thing that I thought might be nice to talk a little bit about, and this has come up for me a lot, especially working with young students, is this whole idea about setting up privacy and visibility. I know for myself, I do have my blogs private. I do share the link with other classrooms. I do have a guest name signed in with a password that we invite people to leave comments or compliments on. I know that there are teachers who do leave them completely public and feel very okay about that as well. I know my only hesitation about keeping them public like that is when there's a child's photograph with their real name. I'm still kind of toying with that because it's not something that we do to practice being safe. So when I'm posting on a Kidblog or even on wikis or blogs in my room with my students and families, I will never use their actual photograph with their real name, just because they're 5 and 6. And as I begin to kind of explore this digital journey with my students and their parents, I really want to be clear about, being safe, and then also what that online etiquette might look like and sound like. Although I'm not opposed to thinking about publishing, thinking more about public. But I know that Kidblog does have features in it that you can privatize them or not as well. I don't know, Brianna, did you have anything that you wanted to share about that?
I kept mine private, and I just created the same thing, the guest and the guest log, and that way I could control who had access to the blogs. I think it made my parents feel a lot more comfortable, especially because the kids were so much younger, and this is relatively a new idea that we're seeing now in the classrooms. And so they, having their pictures, and then I never had their last names, but it said their first name and it had their picture, and they were blogging, and sometimes they would mention another student in class, Zachary and Michaela were studying MI and were exploring rocks, and when they were sharing their thinking, and I think it just made me feel a little bit more comfortable. It made the parents feel a little bit more comfortable.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I
I
know
agree.
one thing. Oh, sorry, Patty. One thing
I
I
just
wanted.
go ahead.
One thing, are you sure? Okay. One thing I wanted to share that just happened recently, and this is what I mean by authentic learning opportunities can just happen really quickly. I have a whole new class this year, no former siblings or anything at all like that, so it's brand new, and I'm very excited about it. And one of my students has already, a couple of them have already gone into our class Kidblog, and so when we create our identities, we usually create them on an iPad and just upload them from the iPad. We use DoodleBuddy, or I have the children draw a picture of themselves, just, their face, and they use bright colors, and we photograph it, and then that's their identity. And I tell them that that's a safe way to have their identity because it's not their real photograph. But of course, the teacher, me, I have my real photograph on there. So one of my new students that I'm getting in the fall, saw that with his mom, and he put his real photograph on next to his name. And so, of course, I took it down, and I was so nice. I said, "Oh my gosh, I just want to let you know, I never, will post a child's real name with their photograph." And she was so awesome, and she said, "Well, he wanted to be like Mrs. D." And I thought about that, and I thought, I'm going to take my photograph off, and I'm also, at the beginning of kindergarten, going to create my own identity also, so I am also safe. But again, it's just kind of, thinking about that when we are working with our students and we are modeling explicitly how to be safe, kind, and responsible, how we're using these tools. They really are very, very literate. They are going to do exactly what we do. So that was a little like, oh, Sharon, think about that. Anyway, Patty, go ahead.
I had a student add his photo over Christmas vacation last year, and I had to come back in January and say, I need you to remove it because of the safety features. And I said, and in this learning adventure together, I wanted to be able to explain what an avatar is, and make some classroom decisions together. And we started with letting each child choose a pattern from the die cut machine that kind of represented them, and that became it. So it was real simple, the color and the shape of their item. That was very safe. We also, when we start school, have media release, and I can tell before school even begins if there are any situations in my roster where children can't have their pictures up there, and I think I would make decisions based on that. The fact that I could control that privacy, I was learning as the adult, was very reassuring to me. Especially because you're going to have slip-ups along the way, and you need to be able to backtrack and learn and fix, and the privacy is key.
Yeah. Well, I think especially with the younger children, but I do know of teachers who are, first and second grade teachers who do have them public and wouldn't think about having them private at all. And so I think, again, it's one of those choices that you have to think about really seriously. And I think the other thing when I set up my kid blogs is really thinking about my audience. That was also really important. And we start with our own audience inside of our classroom, with each other, with our friends that we're meeting that are familiar with face-to-face, and then we share with our family, and then of course extended family, and then we get into also connecting with other classrooms as well. So for me, that works really well. I feel very comfortable with that with 5- and 6-year-olds. But again, I'm not saying that my way is the only way or the right way. It's just my perspective. It's just one way, that I think about it. One of the other the questions that has come up also is, would either of you be willing to talk about how you integrate technology and blogging into the curriculum, into your curriculum? I think we've kind of talked a little bit about that, but would anyone like to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, I can. I can actually try to show you. We're all going to learn together. If I can screen share, I can show you my kid blog that I had with my class last year. And so I think we can see that, correct?
Yep, nice.
So this was an example. We started studying sharks for one of our nonfiction units, and we were Skyping with shark experts, and we were reading about sharks, and we were exploring sharks and learning everything that we could about sharks. And one of the great things we had talked about with Kidblog is that it gave the students an audience and it gave them a voice. And the more we started studying about sharks was that some of the sharks are in danger, and no one's really protecting the sharks. So the kids wanted to take to their kid blogs and blog about why it's important to protect sharks and what we can do to protect sharks. And so they used the app Doodle Buddy, and they would write a sentence. So she wrote, "Do not litter in the ocean," and then they accompanied it with a picture. And one of the awesome things that happened was we Skyped with a shark expert her name is Jillian, and you can find her on Twitter, Sharky Jillian. And I gave her the kid blog. I had told her, I was like, my kids really enjoyed Skyping with you, and the kids were so moved, they wanted to share their learning on their kid blogs to teach others not to hurt sharks and what they can do to protect the sharks. So Jillian went in and she commented on every single one of my kids' shark posts. So she had wrote, "This is a very good way to help sharks in our ocean, something everyone can help with, Sharky Jillian." And then I had a 6th grade buddy, a teacher upstairs from us, and they came in also and commented on her work. So the kids had this immediate feedback that their learning really made this impact and taught somebody else something that they did not know. And one of the other ways that I integrated it was with math. For one of the stations, the kids could use the GeoBoard app, and they had to create a pattern. So they had to name their pattern, describe it, and then tell me what would come next. And that was a couple of the ways that I used it to integrate my math curriculum, as well as the writing standards as well. And through when we started studying, 3D shapes, the students took pictures of 3D shapes in the classroom, and they were able to upload it themselves to the iPad and attach it, describe the shape in those ways. And different opinion writing, they could go in and state their opinion. So we used a lot of Skype, Twitter, and Kidblog, and my question to the students was, which one was your favorite? And they had to tell me, they had to start it with a sentence starter, tell me their reason, and then a closing sentence. So he wrote, "Skype is awesome. I like Skype because we can learn about other people. We get to Skype with experts. Skype is my favorite." And those were the big ways of how I integrated it into my everyday curriculum.
Those are awesome examples. Awesome examples. I will try to share really quickly here my screen. We started off with using Kidblog with just science inquiry. And one of the things that I found with the kids that they really liked a lot was really being able to look at something over time. So when we did this whole thing on radish seeds, it was really, what happens to them, how do they grow, what happens to them over time. The kids really liked this because they were able then to go in and make observations. So we created a post, but then they would go back and add more to the post. So here's a student in May, his writing, I noticed that seeds are connected. They need water to grow. They need sun to grow. So again, I think as a teacher of young children, when I'm looking at a post like this is a really nice reflection of where children are also with their reading and their writing. And I'm also was really pretty impressed with the reflection and the language that they were using. One of the things that I did a lot of was using very open-ended language with students. So the words in our classroom were, I wonder, I noticed. And when we kind of model that from the very beginning, it just really lent itself nicely for science when they were asking questions, because they were always making observations. So I observed, I noticed, and I wondered about. And that way, when they're blogging, that's the kind of language that they're using when they're creating their text about their posts. So it's a really wonderful thing. I really like, Brianna, too, how you demonstrated using other synchronous tools like Skype also and Twitter to connect with a specialist. I think that is a really great idea also. If people are pursuing a scientific idea or you're learning about an animal, use Skype or some other way to connect with someone at a zoo somewhere or, a wildlife expert. Again, any of those kinds of things that we can do to help kind of connect the learning that we're doing inside our classroom with real world application, I think is really, really important. And it's really valuable. And then I think our parents and students really, it's not just buying into the Kidblog thing, but it's really understanding, because they're experiencing alongside of us the richness that blogging can add to their child's learning. Patty, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned most of the ways that I've done it. With their journaling, we started with taking pictures, and then I could write underneath what their stories were, but eventually they took that over. Science, we did when they were just at the word level. We were just drawing and taking photos of the different weather each day as part of our normal classroom routine, and then posting that and using words and stretching them out and using resources around the room. By the time we were doing egg experiments in the spring, they were able to write sentences about what they noticed and believed happened, or what their predictions were. The play was huge in their ownership for that. What was important to them, they wanted to be able to get out there to their parents and to their friends. And that was huge, because the non-writers could buy into writing because of a project they made at the art center. If they wanted to take a picture of it, and they knew that they had to have some kind of explanation to go with it. And as far as my parent communication piece, it was a great way for me to really get better at putting in learning targets and some of the standards that we were working toward, and it became an educational vehicle to teach parents what we were up to and increase that conversation again.
That's awesome. So one of the other things that I was thinking about, I thought I would share, is I also have a book that I created. This was a book for a student of mine in the classroom who had a lot of visual challenges. So this was how to get on Kidblog. And in my classroom, I'm really, really lucky in our school. We do have iPads, so I can check them out, and so that every student has their own iPad. But what I was also trying to do for this student was also trying to give him some scaffolding, some added support, so that he could really do this independently. And what I found out is when I was really determined to make this differentiation for him, a lot of the other students were like, oh, Mrs. D, that's such a good idea. Can we look at it too? And then they were all like collaborating and, you know, hovering around this child and saying, oh, remember we do this next and this next. And there were just all these wonderful things that came out of it. So I just wanted to share this really quickly. I do have a PDF somewhere, and I will put it on the event page so that if people are interested in creating one, you can. So after that, it was, you know, again, step one was just get an iPad. And again, working with younger children, I'm really thinking about using very simple language without a lot of text so that kids can do this independently. And then the other word that I used all the time was touch. So because we shared our iPads, I taught my students how to go through our website. If we didn't have to share our iPads with other people in the school, I would probably just use the Kidblog app because that would be much, much easier. And then again, it's just touch. So for every step of the process, there was a visual showing the students what they had to do with an arrow, and again, keeping that print really, really simple. And the students really liked this a lot, especially when it was time when they finally got down to, you know, logging in. You know, find your name, touch this, find your name, touch your name again. And I love this, and even some of my really early readers early on in the year were doing this independently and were really amazed. They were like, oh, Mrs. D, I can read a book. I'm reading this book. So there were a lot of really wonderful things that came out of that. So that was just one idea that I tried this last year that was really awesome.
I have to say, it does not take a kindergartner long at all to learn the steps and become independent, to just grab a computer or an iPad and get on. The trickiest thing for us was always our safety measures, you know, the firewalls inhibiting getting access to online. So other than that, the kids are certainly able to do it.
Absolutely. Brianna, did you have anything else that you wanted to share?
For as far as getting started with using Kidblog, I think one of the things that I found most helpful was teaching the kids how to take a picture using the iPad, and how to take a screenshot and then where those go, and how we can access those on the iPad and what it looks like to take a picture and take a video and practice that a few times before we actually get working into Kidblog. Because once you get into Kidblog on the app, at least, it's really simple. You know, there's a camera picture and the kids can click it, and as far as uploading and finding those pictures. So as far as getting started, I think that was one of the best things, was teaching the kids how to take a picture and then upload it through Kidblog.
Yeah, I think that's a great point and important to share with everyone, because we're really busy, and I think when you're using an iPad, it's a great device, or any kind of tablet, where you can do everything from the tablet. It's added steps if you have to take a picture and then put it on your computer, and I think the iPad makes that really seamless. And the other thing that it does is it also helps make the kids independent as well. And they then learn how to take a screenshot. They learn where the camera is, as Brianna said, where it goes. And then they become independent. And again, it's that whole idea of being kind, safe, and responsible. This is how we're kind and safe and responsible with our iPads. And this is how we use them to support our learning. So I think that's a great example, All right, so we are almost out of time. I don't know if anyone else in the audience, we did have some questions, and let me see. I think we got them. Oh, there was one more. Would anyone like to really quickly mention anything about focusing on spelling, punctuation, or mechanics?
I found that I didn't do it a whole lot different than I would have had I been sitting at the table having a writing conference with them. It was teachable moments, and when I could see that everybody was ready for some type of a mini lesson, then we would have a lesson using the smartboard and logged on to Kidblog. One thing that I found was helpful for those kids that were ready to take the next step was a screenshot of starting a new post, and the kids could see they needed a title, they needed a post, and then where to press to submit for approval. And they just knew those 3 steps were going to get them success. That helped. And then for a few children, they needed a paper copy of that screenshot to just kind of organize their thoughts before they went down to the computer lab. That was helpful.
Oh, I think that's awesome. And Patty, you also had a parent helper that came in every week also?
Yeah,
in your passion for Kidblog?
Key to me, and she really bought into it and would comment back and forth. She was willing to try things with me on the side to see how it worked, and she just got to know the kids. Actually spent more time in my room with the kids doing Kidblog than I had access to a parapro that was hired by the district. So I was really fortunate to have her, and I hope to find another one of her with a new group this year.
That's awesome. All right. Well, listen, I want to thank everyone, our viewers, and especially Brianna and Patty for jumping in with me today and doing this Google On Air Hangout about Kidblog. It was a lot of fun, and I hope that people who were able to watch, that you found it helpful. If I will also, at the conclusion of it, when we stop the broadcast, it will be available as an event also. So if you would like to take it and share it with other people at your school, feel free to do so. So Patty or Brianna, do you have anything that you want to say before we say goodbye?
Thank you, and it's not as scary as you may think. And it's actually a lot of fun.
I say thank you, Sharon. You're the one that got me started, and just be brave and go for it, and it will change what you do in your classroom for sure, and with your parent population, absolutely. Go for it.
And one more thing I forgot to mention, I want to make sure that I mention, is the founders, Dan Flies and Matt Hardy of Kidblog, are really wonderful. They are devoted and really committed to helping teachers use Kidblog with their students and be successful with it. I know that there are some changes that will be coming up as well in the future. I'm not sure when those will be happening, but I'm sure Kidblog will share those when they're ready. So if you do go to kidblog.org and just go ahead, it's free, and sign in, create a class, and get started. They have a great blog as well. You can also like them on Facebook, and they are also on Twitter @Kidblog. And again, this is Kidblog. They're wonderful. They're very responsive. I know when I first started using it, I would have a gazillion questions, and they would get back to me. And in a couple days, they were really very responsive and very supportive and very helpful, because again, they want teachers and students to be using this to share their learning. So that's just what I wanted to say. Okay.
Thanks, Sharon.
Okay, thanks.